The Domovyk, the spirit living inside your home right now. In the winter of 1987, a woman named Halina Savchenko moved into a new apartment in Kyiv with her husband and young daughter. The apartment was on the 5th floor of a concrete Soviet building. New, clean, anonymous. The kind of place that had no history, no character, no past. Within a week, things began to move. Not dramatically. Not furniture flying across rooms or doors slamming in the night. Small things. A cup left on the left side of the counter, found on the right in the morning. Her husband's keys always hung by the door, found in the kitchen drawer. Her daughter's toy, a small cloth rabbit, found sitting upright in the center of the hallway, facing the front door, every single morning without exception. Her husband said it was stress. Said they were forgetting things in the chaos of moving. Said there was a perfectly rational explanation. The woman who had lived in the apartment before them, an elderly neighbor, tracked her down, listened to the description carefully, and then asked one question. Did you bring bread and salt when you moved in? Did you speak to the corners of the rooms? Alina had not. She had not known she was supposed to. The old woman shook her head slowly. He is still here, she said, and he does not know yet if you are worth keeping. Of all the spirits in the Slavic tradition, the Domovyk is the one most people actually lived with, not encountered, not survived, lived with. The Leshy was in the forest. The Mavka was in the water. The blood was on the road. But the Domovyk, from the Slavic word dim, meaning house, was in your home. Every home, always. Not as an intruder, not as a threat, but as a permanent resident who had been there before you arrived and would remain after you left. He was not evil. This is essential to understand. The Domovyk is perhaps the only spirit in the entire Slavic tradition that was considered fundamentally benevolent, a protector, a guardian, something closer to a family member than a monster. But he had standards, and if you did not meet them, he would let you know. In appearance, the Domovyk was described across centuries and regions with surprising consistency. Small, no taller than a child, often smaller. Old, with a long gray beard and eyes that caught light in the dark like an animal's. Covered in fine hair, sometimes described as warm to the touch, like an animal's fur. He was almost never seen directly, only glimpsed in peripheral vision, a small shape moving in the shadows near the hearth, a brief impression of something watching from beneath the bed. He lived in most traditions near the source of warmth in the house, near the hearth, near the stove. In older homes, behind the oven, a specific spot considered his territory, where the family left offerings and where no one sat or stepped without reason. A happy Domovyk was invisible in the best possible way. The house ran smoothly. Animals stayed healthy. Children slept well. The family's luck held. Food kept longer than it should. The fire in the hearth stayed lit on nights when the wind should have killed it. Small disasters that should have happened simply did not. No one thought to credit the Domovyk for these things, any more than you credit the foundation of your house for keeping it standing. He was simply there, doing what he did, invisible and essential. But a displeased Domovyk made himself known. The methods were specific and escalating. First came the small displacements. Objects moved, things misplaced, the mild chaos that Halina Savchenko experienced in her Kyiv apartment. This was a warning, an announcement, a way of saying I am here and something is wrong. If the warning was ignored, the disturbances grew. Sounds at night, not loud, not dramatic, but persistent. Footsteps in empty rooms. Breathing near your ear in the dark. The sensation of something sitting on your chest as you slept, a phenomenon so consistently reported in Slavic accounts that it had its own name, and was attributed specifically to the Domovyk expressing serious displeasure. If still ignored, the protection withdrew. Animals fell sick. The family's luck turned. Small accidents began to accumulate. Nothing catastrophic. The Domovyk was not malicious, but a steady erosion of the quiet good fortune that most people never noticed until it was gone. The old people said that a house with an angry Domovyk felt different. Colder, even when the fire was lit, heavier, as if the air itself had changed quality. Visitors would leave earlier than planned without knowing why. Children would refuse to sleep in certain rooms. Dogs would not enter the house at all. The Domovyk's displeasure was consistent and specific across all regional traditions. He disliked disorder. Not mésalliances in the modern sense, not unwashed dishes or dust on shelves, but moral disorder, conflict in the house, shouting, dishonesty between family members, broken promises made under this roof. He was, in the old world view, a spirit of household harmony, and its absence disturbed him physically, the way smoke disturbs human eyes. He disliked being forgotten. The offerings left near the hearth, bread, salt, sometimes a small bowl of porridge or milk, were not simply superstition. They were acknowledgment, recognition, a way of saying, "We know you are here, we are grateful, we have not forgotten." A family that forgot him entirely, that moved into a house and never acknowledged his presence, could expect the full escalating sequence of his displeasure. He disliked whistling indoors. This appears again, the whistle as the sound of spirits, the sound that crossed boundaries. To whistle in the house was to call something, and the Domovyk, already present, did not appreciate the implied suggestion that something else should come. He disliked being seen directly. If you glimpsed him, that small shape near the hearth, that movement in the corner, you looked away immediately. You did not stare, you did not point. You did not speak about what you had seen, at least not in the house itself. The Domovyk's presence was acknowledged indirectly, through the offerings and the greetings, never through direct confrontation. Halina Savchenko's experience was mild by the standards of the accounts collected by Ukrainian ethnographies in the 19th and early 20th centuries. In 1891, a family in the Podillia region of western Ukraine moved into a house whose previous owner had died without heirs, leaving no one to properly transfer the Domovyk's allegiance to the new family. Within a month, 3 of their 4 goats died of no identifiable cause. Their eldest son developed a persistent cough that no remedy touched. The father began waking at 3 in the morning every night to find himself standing in the kitchen with no memory of getting up. A village elder was consulted. He came to the house, walked through every room, stood for a long time near the cold hearth, and then said the same thing the old woman would tell Halina Savchenko almost a century later. "He does not know you yet. He does not know if you are worth keeping." The elder performed a simple ritual, bread and salt placed at the 4 corners of the main room, the family's names spoken aloud in each room, an apology offered to the empty air for arriving without introduction. The cough cleared within a week. The remaining goat had 3 healthy kids in the spring. The father slept through the night. In a separate account from 1903, a family in the Kharkiv region deliberately mistreated their Domovyk, a young husband who had studied in the city and considered himself above village superstition, threw the offerings in the fire, and forbade his wife from continuing the practice. 3 months later they moved out. He gave no specific reason to the neighbors. He simply said the house had become uninhabitable and refused to elaborate. His wife, years later, told her daughter what she had experienced in those 3 months. She said it was not the sounds or the cold or the objects moved in the night. It was the feeling of being watched by something that had decided you were not worth protecting. That feeling, she said, was the loneliest thing she had ever experienced. The old practices were simple and domestic, nothing dramatic or difficult. When you moved into a new house, you arrived with bread and salt. Always bread and salt, the two most fundamental things in Slavic domestic life. You stood in the center of the main room and you spoke. You introduced your family. You said your names. You said you came in peace, that you intended to keep a good house, that you hoped to live together well. You left a small offering near the hearth on the first night, bread, salt, a bowl of milk. You did not watch to see if it was taken. You simply left it and went to bed. Every week you acknowledged him. Not elaborately, a small piece of bread left near the stove, a quiet word of thanks for the week past. The way you might acknowledge a neighbor you passed every morning, not with a formal greeting, but with a nod, a recognition, a confirmation that you saw each other. When things went well, when the family was healthy, when the harvest was good, when a child was born safely, you thanked him specifically, out loud, in the house near the hearth. You said, "Things have gone well. We are grateful. We know why." And when you left a house, moved away, left for good, you took him with you. This was essential. You could not simply abandon him. O stood at the threshold, and you invited him to come. You said, "We are going to a new place. There is room for you there. Please come with us." If you did not, he stayed. And the next family would find a Domovyk already present, already formed, already shaped by people he did not know, already wondering if the new arrivals were worth keeping. Halina Savchenko went back to her neighbor, the elderly woman who had asked about the bread and salt, and asked what she should do. The woman gave her a small piece of bread and a pinch of salt wrapped in cloth. She told her to go home, stand in the center of her main room, and speak, say her family's names, say they were sorry for arriving without introduction, say they hoped to keep a good house. Halina felt foolish doing it. She was a Soviet-educated woman in 1987, speaking to an empty apartment in Kiev, apologizing to air, but she did it. Her daughter's rabbit was still in the center of the hallway the next morning, facing the door. But after that, nothing. The cup stayed where she left it. The keys stayed by the door. The apartment felt, she said, warmer. Not in temperature, the Soviet heating was as unreliable as ever, but in some quality she could not name. Like something had decided to stay. Like something had decided they were worth keeping after all. She left bread near the stove every week for the 23 years she lived in that apartment. She never saw anything. She never heard anything unusual again. When she finally moved out in 2010, she stood in the empty apartment one last time, in the center of the main room, and said out loud, "We are going now. Thank you for 23 years. You are welcome to come with us if you like." She said she felt in that moment something brush against her hand, light and warm, like an animal's fur. Then she picked up her last bag and walked out. She brought bread and salt to the new place, just in case he had followed. Subscribe to Whispered Stories by Candlelight. Next, the why he cannot open his eyes without help. But if someone lifts his eyelids, everything in his gaze dies.